Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peter Likes Books. And Boo Radley is here with us today too. Hi Boo Radley. He is helping me out because Boo has been sick like the last 2 days. He's had a cold or something, he's been sneezing, and today is the first day that he's actually kind of got up and done stuff. He has just been sleeping non-stop for 2 days, and he's just kind of seemed kind of weak. And so today he's kind of up and he's wanting to be in videos and sit next to me in the chair, and he's been outside, and so I'm like, okay, well here, be in a video then, little Boo Radley. Little Boo Radley! So anyway, today we are going to do a book haul video. And I have several books that I have recently purchased, as well as audiobooks that I want to talk about. So we are going to get right into that. And the first thing I'm going to talk about is the audiobooks, because you know I love Audible so much, right? And I think there's like, people think all I do is listen to audiobooks. It's not true. At any given time, I am reading a physical copy book, I am reading a Kindle book, and I am listening to a book on Audible at the same time. Bless you, Boo Radley. So anyway, currently on Audible, I am listening to The Woman in the Window by AJ Finn. And I just saw this at Target. And it was on the bestseller list. And I thought it was like one of these daily deals that had gone cheap and then on the bestseller list on Audible. Okay, this book might be the best mystery I have read in 5 or 10 years. It is so fantastic. I almost feel like, because you can't really find out much about this author, it's very like, even on the flap, it was like no picture, and it was like, AJ Finn has written for major publications, but there's like nothing about who this AJ Finn is. I almost feel like it's another author, like Paula Hawkins or somebody like that. It is so well done, you guys. It is fantastic. My best friend Tanya, she finished it last night. I told her 2 days ago, I said, you gotta get this book. She went home that night at midnight. She downloaded it on her Kindle. She read half of it, and yesterday, all she did was sit at home and finish the book. That's all she did, was read the book. She called me today, she goes, that book about gave me a panic attack. She goes, it is so good. And I go, I know, and I said, you never know what's gonna happen next. So, The Woman in the Window by AJ Finn, it's fantastic. I also got The Chalk Man by CJ Tudor. It is supposedly... Excuse me. Please hold. I need a little coffee. It is supposedly another great mystery, and it's about these kids that grew up in like the 80s in the UK, and they would like write, like their code was like these chalk stick men or something, and then these chalk stick men at one point, these led them to finding like a body. It's very much like Stand By Me. Flash forward to like current time, and each of them get this letter in the mail with a chalk figure in it, and a chalk stick figure, and then they each start dying one by one, and it's this guy trying to figure it out. So I got that one, because I'm like real into mysteries right now. And then, okay, Nobody Kill Me, because I joke about her all the time, but Nora Roberts has a new book out, and it is getting a lot of positive attention, and so I wanted to read it and just give a really fair review. It's actually going to be a series. This is year 1, Chronicles of the whatever, it's called Year 1. And, it's about like the end of the world, and when you read the back of it, it almost kind of reminds me of a little bit of the Left Behind series. Did you guys ever read those? I got totally obsessed with those Left Behind series. Like, I am not a highly religious person, I'm very spiritual, but those books were impossible to put down. I think I read all of them. I think I read all 10 or 11 of them, but it kind of reminds me of that a little bit. And then I got The Member of the Wedding by Carson McCullers. I love Carson McCullers. I was a Southern Lit major, and she's one of my favorite Southern authors. The Heart is a Lonely Hunter is one of my all-time favorite novels of life. And The Member of the Wedding, if you've never read it, it's very sweet. It's about this little girl, and her brother is getting married, and she kind of fantasizes that she's going to go live with them. And it's a lot about the maid that lives with them and her spending time with the maid in the kitchen. And I don't remember a whole lot about it, but I do remember that I just like couldn't get enough of it. So it's been years since I've read it, so I got that again. And then I got Behind Her Eyes, a novel by Sarah Pinborough, and this is another one that is supposed to be a fantastic mystery. So I'm super excited about that. There's a lot of books on here that I haven't talked about. I bought Rabbit, which is an autobiography, Station 11, Artemis, Renegades. Yeah, so I've got a lot of books that I'm really excited to read coming up. So yeah, or listen to on Audible. Don't you think Audible should sponsor me at this point? I mean, come on, Audible, seriously? Do you realize they don't really sponsor a lot of booktubers? I think that's interesting. They'll sponsor huge YouTubers that we all know don't listen to Audible. I mean, come on now. But they won't sponsor, like, I don't see any booktubers out there. I mean, maybe. Is there, like, Jesse the Reader or, like, Christine or some of those people that are, like, huge? Like, are they sponsored by Audible? I don't think I've ever remembered one where they're sponsored by Audible. Who knows? Leave it in the comment section below. All right, so we need to have a conversation. I said that starting in January, I was going to read a classic every month, right? And that I was going to start 1984 by George Orwell. Well, I'm not going to do that anymore. So if you bought it, hold on to it. I might read it. Or you can read it now if you want. But I went to the bookstore, and it's so long, and I was like, I don't know that I'm really going to love this enough to really get down with this. And if you didn't watch the video I did a couple days ago, I did this whole book discussion about classics versus contemporaries and why I just kind of want to read what I want to read. And so when I was at the bookstore, I went to Half Price Books. You guys know I hate these damn... I will say this for Half Price Books. Their price tags are the easiest to get off. But instead of 1984, I bought Animal Farm by George Orwell because I've never read it, and I thought, you know what? He is... Hi. So anyway, I've never read it. If you haven't read it, here, let me tell you a little bit of what it's about. The animals on Mr. Jones' farm stage a successful revolution and take the place over. Their hopes, their plans, and their achievements form the subject of Animal Farm. In the first flush of enthusiasm, there is set up a great commandment. All animals are equal. But unfortunately, leadership devolves almost automatically on the pigs, who are on a higher intellectual level than the rest. The revolution begins to go wrong, yet at every step, excellent excuses are always forthcoming for each perversion of the original doctrine. And it's a lot about society, and it's like done through this whole idea of animals, and so many people that I know love this book, so I'm excited about reading it. All right, now I have to tell you, the rest of the books, okay, so let me show you. I did a Page Habit unboxing, and in that I got The Truth Beneath the Lies. So go over to my Page Habit unboxing, and you can read all about that. Newsies, read all about that, or something like that, whatever. What was that Newsies thing back in the day? Get your news! Anyway, so yeah, I'm doing Page Habit unboxings, and I'm real excited about that. So go over there and check that out. All right, and then... somebody sent me this book, and I was so excited about it. I did a whole video about this book alone, so I won't talk about it on here, but The Speed Queen by Stuart Onan. I'm going to read this when I go to Florida this spring. I'm really excited about it. It's one of my all-time favorite books. Probably, I mean, honestly, and I say my top 5 all the time, but it is truly probably in my top 5. I love The Speed Queen so much. So, and he's one of my all-time favorite authors, Stuart Onan, so I always talk about him on here. Is there a picture in here? Stuart, there's no picture. Go check it out, The Speed Queen. And I can't remember who sent it to me, so I want to say Susan. Susan. Thank you, Susan. I don't know how I remember that. Now, the rest of the books are just random that I got. So I'll tell you, I don't know why I picked them up, but I just kind of wanted to read some experimental fiction, some different stuff, some authors I hadn't read in a while, things like that. So the next book I got was called The Sterile Cuckoo by John Nichols. When 18-year-old Jerry Payne first meets Pookie Adams at the Fryersburg, Oklahoma bus depot, he is hardly aware that this moment marks the beginning of the most memorable love affair of his life. Overwhelmed and yet secretly enchanted by her zany, rambling monologue, it is with a sense of relief that Jerry leaves her in St. Louis as he continues to New York. Thinking he's seen the last of her, he heads off to college, only to be pursued by 17 lengthy letters, and before he knows it, he's involved with a seemingly crazy, startlingly honest girl who adores him. During the next 2 years, Pookie helps Jerry leave behind the fun-seeking beer-blasted fraternity man he has become, as she teaches him to open his heart to her. Then, almost as suddenly as she appeared in his life, she disappears from it, leaving in her wake an eternal trail of love and wonder. John Nichols is the author of A Ghost in the Music and The Wizard of Loneliness, both available in Norton paperback fiction, as well as The Milagro Beanfield War. Oh, I didn't know that! In other works, he lives in New Mexico. Very excited about reading this. I just saw it randomly, and I was like, I'm getting that. And then, okay, so back in the day, I loved the movie Lesson Zero, and it was based on the book by Bret Easton Ellis, who I think also wrote Bright Lights, Big City. So anyway, did he write also Bright Lights, Big City? I can't remember. But anyway, this is the sequel to it, and it is called Imperial Bedrooms. Clay is a successful screenwriter, middle-aged and disaffected. He's in LA to cast his new movie. However, this trip is anything other than professional, and he's soon drifting through a loose and long familiar circle, a world largely populated by the band of infamous teenagers first introduced in Lesson Zero. But his debauched reverie is about to be interrupted by a violent plot for revenge, and Clay's seemingly endless proclivity for betrayal and exploitation looks set to land him somewhere darker and more ominous than ever before. I'm actually going to read this in Miami too, so. All right, I'm saving the best for last. Then, this was in like the sci-fi section, and it caught my eye, and I don't know why, but I saw they had a bunch of them, and usually that means they suck. If they have like half-price books has a ton of them. But I got it because it just sounds so intriguing to me, but I have an idea that this is going to totally send me into a panic attack, because one of my biggest fears is being buried alive, true story, and sharks. Okay, so here it is. It's called Alive by Scott Sigler. I open my eyes to darkness, total darkness. I hear my own breathing, but nothing else. I lift my head. It thumps against something solid and unmoving. There is a board right in front of my face. No, not a board, a lid. A teenage girl awakens to find herself trapped in a coffin. She has no idea who she is, where she is, or how she got there. Fighting her way free brings little relief. She discovers only a room lined with caskets and a handful of equally mystified survivors. Beyond their room lies a corridor filled with bones and dust, but no people and no answers. She knows only one thing about herself, her name, M. Savage, which was engraved on the foot of her coffin, yet she finds herself in charge. She is not the biggest among them or the boldest, but for some reason, the others trust her. Now, if they're to have any chance, she must get them to trust one another. Whatever the truth is, she is determined to find it and confront it. If she has to lead, she will make sure they survive. Maybe there's a way out, a rational explanation, and a fighting chance against the dangers to come. Or maybe a reality they cannot comprehend lies just beyond the next turn. Doesn't that sound so good? I mean, seriously. It'll either be totally crap or it'll be awesome. But it reminds me of those movies back in the day, Cube. Did you guys ever see those movies? There's like 4 of them. Oh my God, they made me so nervous to even watch. I hated them. All right. Okay. Now, I haven't talked a lot about this author. But there is an author named Jill McCorkle. Does she have her picture in here? Here she is. There she is. And she used to teach at Hollins College or University of North Carolina. Jill McCorkle is the author of 9 previous books, 4 story collections, and 5 novels, 5 of which have been selected as the New York Times notable books. I've read them all except for this one. The recipient of the New England Book Award, the John Dos Passos Prize for Excellence in Literature, and the North Carolina Prize for Literature. She teaches writing at North Carolina State University and lives in Hillsborough, North Carolina. So I read a book of hers years ago when I was in college. I was probably 19 at the time, and it was called Ferris Beach. It changed my life. It made me fall in love with a kind of writing, a characterization that I had never witnessed in a book before, not even To Kill a Mockingbird. It was so enlightening to read a book that entranced me so much that I went on to read all of her books. The Queen of October and July 4th and July 5th and all these books. And I fell in love with her stories, her short story collections and her books. For an English composition class, I had to write a letter to an author, and I wrote to her. And she wrote me back, and she gave me advice on how to be an author. And she was the first author that I ever talked to and that I ever met. And I will never forget that. And so when I was going through, and I always check her name when I'm at the bookstore, and I honestly didn't know that she had any books come out. And this book came out in 2013. Life After Life, a novel by Jill McCorkle. The longest and most expensive journey you will ever make is the one to yourself. Some people never even purchase a ticket. Some only get halfway. Some stand like Moses glimpsing the promised land. For some, that's about as good as getting there. Award-winning author Jill McCorkle takes us on a splendid journey through the time and memory in this, her 10th work of fiction. Life After Life is filled with a sense of wonder at our capacity for self-discovery at any age. And the residents, staff, and neighbors of the Pine Haven Retirement Center, from 12-year-old Abby to 85-year-old Sadie, share some of life's most profound discoveries and are some of the most true-to-life characters that you are ever likely to meet in fiction. There's retired third-grade teacher Sadie Randolph, who has taught every child in town and believes we are all eight-year-olds in our hearts. Stanley Stone, a prominent lawyer, now feigning dementia to escape life with his son. Marge Walker, the town's self-appointed conveyor of social status, who keeps a scrapbook of every local murder and heinous crime. Rachel Silverman, recently widowed, whose decision to leave her Massachusetts home and settle at Pine Haven is a puzzle to everyone but her. CJ, the pierced and tattooed young mother who runs the beauty shop. And Joanna Lamb, the hospice volunteer, who discovers that her path to a good life lies in helping people achieve good deaths. As each character begins to connect with another, the mysteries and consequences of their lives are revealed. What they eventually learn about themselves and one another will profoundly transform them all. Delivered with her trademark wit, Jill McCorkle's constantly surprising novel illuminates The possibility of second chances, hope, and rediscovering life right up to the very end. With life after life, she's conjured up an entire community that reminds us all that grace and magic can and do appear when we least expect it. I think I'm getting emotional because her writing was one of the very first, like, canons of work that I ever read that profoundly impacted me as a human being. I can remember reading all of it, and it made me have such hope in humanity and the human experience. I love her as a person, and she doesn't even know that I exist. And I think that is a fantastic, you know, homage to an author if we just love them so much from afar because of the work and the characters that they create. I am so excited to read this book. It is definitely next on my list. So, God, I get emotional about books and authors. So, anyway, these are my books. I cannot wait till 2018 to read so many fantastic books. And I will talk to you guys later. I love you. Bye.